Hey everyone, welcome back to Brian's Mysteries and Adventures on Trail. Today's case is a case that I actually learned about several years ago, and I had done a lot of research on it. Somehow I lost my paperwork on it, but I really wanted to talk about this case that started in Santa Barbara in early of March 2014 when a young couple, they were only 22 years old at the time. Unfortunately, neither of them had very much hiking experience at all. Let's first look at a few maps. Santa Barbara is located in Southern California. Here is a map of the general area of Santa Barbara. It's absolutely beautiful. It gets roughly 250,000 tourists every year. It's got a very nice climate. These are some pictures of just general area of Santa Barbara. There are many trails right out of the area of Santa Barbara, and a lot of them can be misleading, especially for beginners, because the beginning of the trails look very benign and they get much harder as you go further. This particular incident happened on the Cold Springs Trail, more specifically the West Fork of the Cold Springs Trail. Here is a map of when you start out on the trail. As you can see, it splits off in many different directions. Very soon after you start the trail, you'll hit this fork, which you can go either east or west. On this particular day, this couple, they decided to go on the West Fork. It was a young man and a young woman. The woman's name was Saylor Guilliams. The man's name is Brenden Vega. And like I said, they were both 22 years old at the time. This is the way the trail starts out, but eventually it gets very steep, very rocky. There are a lot of small waterfalls, some larger waterfalls, a lot of different little stream crossings depending on the time of year and the precipitation. They can be more difficult to cross. These are all pictures from the actual trail to give you an idea of the terrain. On this day in March of 2014, this couple was only planning to do a day hike, so they did not bring any overnight gear. They quickly realized as they continued to ascend that they weren't ready for this type of hike. This is a satellite map just to show you more of the terrain and the West Fork of this trail. It eventually leads up to a place called Tangerine Falls. We do know that the couple eventually made it up to the area of Tangerine Falls. This is where things really started to go bad. The couple was not anticipating for it to get dark as quick as it did. They stopped along the way a couple of times just to, feel the water, maybe try and cool off a little bit. Explore the various terrain and look around, because you do get some beautiful views once you get up to a certain elevation on this trail. This is a picture of the general area of Tangerine Falls. As you can see, it's very rocky. This picture coming up just shows you one side. It's kind of looking down onto a bunch of trees and mountains out in the distance. Unfortunately, like I said, it got dark much quicker than they were anticipating. So what they tried to do was they tried to use the lights on their cell phone to light the path, because neither of them had any headlamps or flashlights. This only worked for a short while, and even with both of them using their cell phone lights, Saylor later recalled that it just was not enough to light the trail. This is where things really began to go downhill for the couple. Not only had both of their cell phones died, at one point, Saylor had tried to jump down off of a rock to get to the next point on the trail. During this jump, she fractured one of her legs and was unable to move forward. They both, of course, tried to use their cell phones to call for help, but they were both dead. So what Brenden tried to do was he picked up Saylor and was trying to carry her. Unfortunately, he then suffered a very bad fall. His glasses shattered into a million pieces. He unfortunately broke his elbow, and then during that fall, Saylor broke her ankle. So now they both had serious injuries and were immobile. Knowing they were in serious trouble, Brenden decided that he was going to go and try and get help. Sadly, that was the last time she ever saw him as he was walking off into the darkness. Saylor later recalled that she was yelling for help all night. I can't even imagine how terrifying it would be being in basic pitch blackness, nobody else around. Your only companion has just gone to try and get help. You don't know what's happened to him or what will happen to him. She reported that she didn't get any sleep. The next morning, she was still yelling for help. Throughout the day, it just got to the point where she was so exhausted, her body just gave out. She couldn't even muster up any words, and she just laid down, and she was basically laying in the mud and dirt. Around 4 p.m. the next day, Monday, a group of 3 hikers were coming up that same trail. They reported later that there was no one else around. One of the hikers, named Nicole, said that she saw what looked like blazing red hair out of the corner of her eye, and then she reported she said that she saw it move. Nicole was a doctor completing her 4th year of residency in a hospital in Rhode Island. She was on her hike with her boyfriend, Joe, and his brother-in-law, Peter. They immediately stopped and began to help her. Thankfully, one of them had a cell phone. They called emergency services. These are pictures from the actual rescue. The 3 later all recalled that this was just a miracle of fate because one of them was unemployed, Peter, the brother-in-law. Another one had taken a red-eye from Florida the night before. They weren't even sure if they were going to go hiking. Of course, Nicole, being a doctor, knew right away that Saylor, pictured here, had life-threatening injuries. This is a picture of her being rescued. She was later transported to the Cottage Hospital of Santa Barbara, pictured here, which she had to stay for a very long time. She had to endure several surgeries. She was in the ICU. At this point, she didn't even know what had become of Brenden. Unbeknownst to her, he had actually been found hours before by another couple hiking around 100 feet below where she was found. He was sadly found deceased. Later, they determined that it was most likely from a fall in the darkness due to his injuries and not being able to see. So that was an absolute tragedy for everyone involved. The doctors worked on Saylor for months. She had to go through 5 surgeries. She was in and out of the hospital for over a year. Nicole, Joe, and Peter, the 3 hikers that found her, it changed their lives. They all got into different things. Nicole went on to keep being a doctor, but she said it just changed the way she looked at things. Peter just couldn't believe that he just happened to be unemployed at the time. They all just couldn't believe that she had just recently dyed her hair red, because that was the only thing that caught Nicole's eye. If she hadn't done that, who knows if they would have ever seen her. This case was both a miracle and tragedy because Saylor survived, but unfortunately Brenden died. They were very, very close. In fact, Brenden's mother held the funeral until Saylor would be able to attend. Everyone involved that came out of there said they couldn't believe how difficult and rocky the terrain was. It is just filled with sycamore and oak trees and thick brush, steep rocks, and just very treacherous terrain. It is also noteworthy that the 3 that found Saylor said that they were so close to not carrying a cell phone because they thought it would bring them closer to nature. It was just a last-minute decision that Peter decided that he was going to take his cell phone. Everyone said now that they'll never go out on any trail without cell phone and more preparation. This is the area again of Tangerine Falls. Just look at the slope on the north face. It's basically a sheer cliff. It is a very difficult area to navigate even during the day, so I can't imagine trying to do this at night with no lights. I want to dedicate this video to Saylor Guilliams Brenden Vega, Nicole Gergen, Peter Biava, and Joe Villapiano. My thoughts and prayers go out to all of you and all of your families, and I pray for Brenden's family that they have found peace and closure. I'm so sorry for your loss, but he was a hero going to try and find help for his beloved friend. I hope and pray that wherever you all are now, that you know that you were angels on Saylor's shoulders that day, and it truly was a miracle. Thank you all for watching. As always, I appreciate all your feedback, comments, and support. Special thank you to co.ag for providing the background music. Hopefully, I'll see you all in the next one. Take care. Hey everyone, thanks for sticking with me till the end. I know this case was difficult in many ways, but I also find it absolutely incredible that all these things lined up the way they did so that Saylor would be found. Peter only realized afterwards that he had those pictures on his cell phone of what Nicole thought was the red hair that prompted them to go over and look. I've covered hundreds of cases at this point, and it's very rarely that a case like this happens. It truly is both a tragedy and a miracle. Definitely leave me your thoughts in the comments. I love hearing from you guys. If you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. It's free. It really helps the channel. If you have any comments or suggestions for me on cases or videos, my email is always in the description. Thank you so much for all your support. See you next time.